After discovering a set of lucky numbers and a fortune cookie, a young man named Kevin Carson wins a massive $370 million in the lottery. However, he faces a life-threatening challenge when a neighborhood bully haunts him and demands it all. Living in a government housing project with his grandmother, Mrs. Carson, Kevin has always dreamed of attending a design school and creating his own sneaker line one day, but currently works at Foot Locker, a popular footwear retail store. On a Friday morning, just a few days before the 4th of July, everyone in the neighborhood is buzzing about the Mondo $1 Million lottery as crowds line up at the local stores, eager to buy tickets and play their numbers. Out on the street, a news reporter interviews random people, asking them what they would do with the money if they were to win the lottery. That morning, Kevin's best friend, Benny, arrives at his house while Kevin's getting ready for work. Benny asks Grandma about Kevin, and she tells him to check on him in his room. Just then, he sees a plate of food on the table and starts eating from it. He enters Kevin's room, and Kevin playfully teases him about always coming to his house and eating his food. Benny tells him to relax, saying they're friends and ought to share things together. Kevin finishes dressing up, and when they're about to go out, Mrs. Carson gives Kevin her lottery numbers and asks him to play them for her on his way home. Mrs. Carson, being an overly religious person, sternly warns Kevin not to let anyone copy the numbers, as she claims Jesus specifically gave them to her in a dream. On their way, they bumped into the neighborhood gossip named James, although he prefers being called Samaj, which is just his name spelled backwards. He seems to know about everyone and every secret in the town, as he tells them of a girl who bought 50 lottery tickets at a time. Known for his gossip, Kevin and Benny try to escape the conversation, but Samaj keeps drawing them back in. He sternly warns them to stay away from the basketball court, where a notorious bully who's just been released from prison is hanging out. However, they leave without heeding his advice, thinking he's joking. Still on their way, a reclusive man pops his hand out of a basement window with cash for Kevin to buy him some items. This doesn't sit well with Benny, who dislikes the man because no one in the neighborhood has ever seen his face before, and he perceives him to be a bad person or a mercenary. Kevin tells him to chill out and stop judging people, pointing out that Benny's always been quick to write people off since they were kids. They stop by their friend Stacy's house to call on her. Stacy is a sweet, smart, decent girl, the type Grandma loves seeing Kevin with, and wishes he would date. Elsewhere in the neighborhood, a few of Kevin's friends sit at their usual spot, arguing about which is best to buy between a flashy sports car and a helicopter, if they happen to win the lottery. While some of them choose a helicopter, some prefer a sports car, which lead to major arguments among them. At that point, Kevin, Benny, and Stacy pass by. To settle the argument, they decide to ask Kevin to choose which one he prefers. Kevin replies that he doesn't play the lottery, and calls it a game that only keeps people poor by selling them false dreams. This reply doesn't sit well with his friends, but they still ask him to pick one just to settle the argument. So, Kevin reluctantly says he did choose a helicopter, which just angers the sports car fans even more. Ignoring Samaj's warning, they pass by the basketball court only to encounter Lorenzo, a paroled criminal, and his gang. Kevin tries to play it cool, telling Benny to keep moving and not to make eye contact with him. However, Lorenzo sees them and orders them to come over. Benny greets him, but Lorenzo ignores him. Instead, he proceeds to put fear in them by squeezing a basketball so hard until it bursts open. When they're about to leave, he calls Kevin back and asks him to hook him and his gang up with 3 pairs of sneakers, each from Foot Locker, as they will be coming by later in the day to pick them up. To avoid Lorenzo's trouble, Benny assures him that it's fine and that they will do as he says. After walking a few miles off the court, Kevin is angry that Benny agrees for Lorenzo to come pick up free sneakers from the shop when Benny doesn't even work there, and he will be the only one to face the consequences. Stacy suggests Kevin can still find his way to design school if he's serious about it. Kevin says he can't because he's broke and has no money. Moreover, there will be no one to look after his grandma or pay the rent, and he angrily walks away. He finally gets to work, and he's scolded by his manager, who tells him that his salary will be deducted for coming late. Kevin shrugs it off as he goes to serve a customer, who admires a rare pair of Jordans, kept aside for its uniqueness. The man asks for the price, and Kevin tells him that it costs $1,000. Finding the price to be on the high side, The customer says they are just shoes and shouldn't cost that much, as he walks away. However, Kevin doesn't see it that way and swears to get it for himself one day. Not long enough, Lorenzo and his men arrive at the shop. Kevin hides when he sees them, as Lorenzo demands someone to serve them. The manager approaches them and offers to be at their service, but Lorenzo insists he wants Kevin when he spots him hiding. At this point, the manager perceives them to be bad people and tells Kevin to keep an eye on them. Kevin gives Lorenzo and his friends 3 sets of sneakers, each as demanded. After testing them on, Lorenzo thanks him, saying it is the first time he and his friends are getting something new without having to rob people on the street. They grab the shoes and are about to leave, but the alarm goes off and the police arrive. Lorenzo and his men are arrested and handcuffed. He tries to twist the story, saying Kevin gave them the shoes as a gift, and Kevin is asked if it's true. He hesitantly explains to the police that he did not intend to give the shoes to Lorenzo, but he gets fired, and Lorenzo is arrested for shoplifting. After the incident, Kevin goes to see Stacy at her workplace and tells her everything that had happened. Stacy tries to console him, but Kevin doesn't seem to care and says it's fine. They get some snacks while they chat, and Kevin cracks open a fortune cookie only to find a tiny slip of paper with a motivational quote and a set of lucky numbers inside. He throws it away, but Stacy scolds him and says it's a sign of bad luck and quickly picks it up. She then gives it back to him and tells him to keep it. On his way home, he stops at a gas station to buy Grandma's ticket and also get the basement man's orders. The ticket seller urges him to buy one for himself as well, saying the money will go a long way for Kevin if he's lucky enough to win. At first, he refuses, but later decides to give it a try as he hands him the fortune cookie numbers to play. Upon getting home, Benny tells him that the entire neighborhood is saying that he snitched on Lorenzo. Kevin is surprised as to how the news got out so fast, even when nobody was there. Depressed, he enters his house and meets Grandma, who has been worried after hearing what happened. He gives Grandma her ticket and then heads to his room to rest. Later that evening, while Kevin sleeps, the lottery winning numbers are announced on the TV, with Mrs. Carson curiously watching to see if her numbers win. But unfortunately, she's disappointed to find out that none of her numbers match the ones displayed on the screen. On Saturday, the following morning, Grandma and Kevin sit in the living room when a rerun of the lottery results plays again, in case someone had missed the previous broadcast. Kevin sees the store clerk who sold him the ticket being interviewed. At that moment, he rushes to his room to grab his ticket and returns. As the numbers are called, Kevin makes sure to listen and carefully pays attention. He's shocked and at the same time excited when he realizes that all of the numbers match, and has just won himself the whopping sum of $370 million. He breaks the news to Grandma, who doesn't believe him at first, so Kevin hands her the ticket. Grandma carefully checks each number, and when she sees they all match, she bursts into celebration with him. She grabs the phone, ready to share the good news with her friends, but Kevin quickly stops her. He tells her that no one must know about the ticket, not until he claims the money, and he makes her promise to keep it a secret. Kevin meets Benny, who's unaware of anything that's happening, and asks him to escort him to the ticket shop. They arrive and request the attention of the clerk. Kevin asks him about the procedures for turning in the ticket if someone wins. The man tells them that the whole process is handled downtown at the district headquarters. Right then, they quickly hop on a bus and ride into the city. Benny notices how happy Kevin is and inquires to know what's going on. Kevin hands Benny a newspaper that has the lottery winning numbers boldly displayed, along with the winning ticket. Benny is surprised as he almost screams out of excitement. Kevin quickly shuts him up and tells him to stay calm. The other passengers are already pissed off by their attitude, and Kevin apologizes. They arrive at the claims office only to find the place empty, except for a janitor who's mopping the floor. Confused, they ask the guy why nobody's around, and he tells them that the establishment is closed due to the 4th of July weekend and that they should come back on Tuesday. Kevin and Benny become worried on hearing about this. Kevin is afraid that a lot could happen within 3 days if anyone else learns about his ticket. Benny tries to calm him down and reminds him that only the two of them and Grandma are aware. Meanwhile, back in the neighborhood, Mrs. Carson is caught up in excitement as she turns on the music and dances in celebration, unaware that Samaj had quietly entered the house on hearing the loud music. She's startled when she turns around and notices him behind her. Samaj asks what the celebration is about, but Mrs. Carson brushes it off and says it's nothing. However, Samaj keeps pressing her with questions, and before she knows it, she unintentionally breaks the news to him. Kevin and Benny return home and notice how quiet the neighborhood is, as they barely see anybody outside. However, a boy passes by and they ask him where everyone is, but he says he doesn't know. They go to Kevin's house, and there they find everyone, all waiting for him to return. Kevin is surprised, as he calls Grandma to ask what's going on. Grandma calmly admits she told Samaj, who ran off and told everybody. Suddenly, the neighbors all got a story to tell. They start pleading for help, listing their problems, and throwing out crazy requests for money. Kevin is overwhelmed as he and Benny run from the house, chased by the crowds, all shouting and calling his name. They manage to escape by slipping through a window into Benny's house, where they hide and watch as the crowd runs past. Moments later, Benny pulls out a map and devises an escape plan. He tells Kevin that they can use an underground tunnel that's been in existence for years and go away from the town for a while. Realizing how much their lives have changed, Kevin breaks down in tears. $370 million is a dream come true, but that's only if they survive for the next 2 days before the claims office reopens. Kevin tells Benny to get up as he comes up with an idea. He suggests that they lie to everyone that the ticket is fake and that he never won any lottery. Seeing that it's a smart one, Benny buys into the idea. After all, everyone already thinks Kevin's a snitch and won't be surprised if he's also a liar. They head outside with their plan intact, as the crowd chants Kevin's name. When they try to swarm him like they did before, Kevin's friends step in this time and take it upon themselves to protect him. The crowd continues to praise him, and one girl even says she wouldn't mind to have his baby. Kevin is confused about what to do. Just yesterday, they hated him and called him a snitch. Benny tells him that it's because he's now rich and urges him to just roll with it. Kevin then addresses the crowd, assuring everyone of a better life and a free place for all to live and be happy. Just then, Stacy rushes in on hearing the news, but Kevin's friend stops her. Kevin scolds them to leave her, not after knowing how close he and Stacy are. Out at the playground, Kevin opens up to Stacy, revealing that the fortune cookie numbers won him the lottery. On hearing this, Stacy jokingly tells him that she deserves a cut of the money, since she was the one who told him not to throw it away. Stacy then suggests to Kevin that he does not need to go to a design school anymore, and could just start his own shoe company right away. However, Kevin says he's never really thought about it that way, and promises to think it over. Just then, Nikki Swayze, a hot, seductive girl who previously rejected Kevin, suddenly develops interest in him. She apologizes to Kevin and asks him out on a date, after which she grabs Kevin's butt and kisses his ears. Kevin's friends are all intrigued by Nikki, but Stacy isn't. Stacy warns Kevin that Nikki is only after his money and advises him to stay away from her, but Kevin doesn't believe it. Kevin's friends call Stacy jealous and tell Kevin not to listen to her. They ask him where they're hanging out that evening, and Kevin says he has no money since he hasn't yet turned in the ticket. They tell him not to worry, as one of them tells him of someone who can lend him some money to pay back later. They arrive at the place and knock on the door. A security guard named Jimmy comes out. He asks Kevin and Benny to come in, but asks the rest to stay outside. Upon entering the facility, they meet a lone shark named Sweet Tea. He asks Kevin if he knows who he is, and Kevin says no. He introduces himself to him, after which he congratulates Kevin on his lottery win and offers to be his friend. He tells Kevin to feel free and come around anytime, and he gives him a $100,000 loan to go out and have fun. At first, Kevin refuses to take the money, but then accepts when Sweet Tea insists it's just a token of their friendship. To make it even more appealing, Sweet Tea whips out one of his limousine cars and appoints Jimmy to be their chauffeur for the main time. Kevin rolls out with his friends, and they live it up in style. They cruise around town, hitting up the mall and game shop. They splurge on luxury items like designer earrings and wristwatches, and have a blast playing their favorite video games. However, one notable absence stands out in all of these, and that's Stacy, who has been there for him all along. Kevin now rocks with Nikki. When they arrive at Foot Locker, the manager sees Kevin and panics in fear, thinking they've come to cause trouble. Whereas, Kevin's just there to buy shoes for his friends and himself, including the limited edition Jordans he's been eyeing since. Unaware of Kevin's sudden success, the manager mocks him, saying he didn't need to rob a bank to afford the shoes. In response, Benny sprays him with a wad of cash, showing off their financial freedom. At a restaurant, while Nikki assists Kevin in choosing from the food menu, Kevin's friends are busy stealing the restaurant's silverware. Nikki tells Kevin that she's familiar with the dishes and casually mentions names of top celebrities like LeBron James and Jay-Z, whom she's been with. After the date, Nikki brings Kevin to her house, where she touches and tries to play with him. Kevin brings out a protection to use, but Nikki says they won't need it as she throws it away. When Kevin insists, she gets frustrated and slams him. She then reveals that she was legally trying to get half of Kevin's money by having a baby with him, which she termed as her own lottery ticket. She then asks Kevin to leave the room. On his way home, the man from the basement window calls Kevin and invites him inside for a conversation. Kevin enters the house, and for the first time, we get to see the man's face and learn that he goes by the name of Washington. He talks to Kevin about his ticket, and Kevin asks how he knows when he doesn't even go outside. Mr. Washington reveals that with the aid of Vin in his apartment, he hears everything that goes on outside and doesn't really need to go out. He offers Kevin a drink and says that the world is full of bad people, which is the reason he decides to stay indoors for the sake of his own sanity. He further reveals that he was once a boxer, and though he never had a shot, he worked as a sparring partner to top champs like Muhammad Ali, Ronnie Lyle, and many more.
Still got a little something.
He tells Kevin that he usually gets $300 a round to spar with these celebrities, which, of course, was a huge amount of money back then. Kevin inquires to know what really happened to him that made him fall so hard, and Mr. Washington tells him that he was robbed and shot in the neighborhood, which ended his whole career in a split second. However, he had hoped someone someday would come and change the hood the way he intended to. When Kevin is about to leave, he tells him that he had needed someone to keep him company, and he thanks Kevin for coming. On Sunday, Kevin attends a church with Grandma. The pastor preaches about miracles and tells his members that God had directed him to have a new church, a beautiful house like those of the well-established pastors, and also to divorce his wife and marry a hot model. He then proceeds to call Kevin out to come give testimony. Kevin refuses at first, but then comes out when Grandma convinces him to go. Just when he's about to give his testimony, Benny runs in and tells Kevin that Lorenzo is out of jail and is looking everywhere for him. At that moment, Lorenzo walks in, and Benny tries to buy time for Kevin to run away. He grabs the mic and tells the crowd that Lorenzo has come to give his life to Christ. The people swarm Lorenzo in jubilation, but stop when he shouts at them to go away. Kevin tries to escape through the back door, but he's confronted by Lorenzo's crew. Lorenzo catches up with him, and Kevin apologizes for what happened to the locker shop. Lorenzo tells him that he's over that and demands that Kevin give him the lottery ticket. Jimmy arrives just in time and knocks out Lorenzo's crew, pulls a gun on Lorenzo, and asks him to back off from Kevin. Lorenzo dares Jimmy when he realizes he doesn't dare to pull the trigger. Lorenzo breaks Jimmy's hand and beats him up, giving Kevin the chance to escape. Lorenzo and his men chase after him through the city, with Kevin running smartly and desperately making sure not to get caught, knowing how much the ticket means to him. He runs to a train station and leaps onto a train, thinking he's saved. However, he's surprised when Lorenzo badges in. Kevin dribbles him by scurrying through the passengers and quickly hops off before the door closes. The train leaves the station with Lorenzo still on it. Later that day, on the rooftop, Kevin and Benny argue about the ticket when Benny asks Kevin to let him keep it, so Lorenzo wouldn't take it. Kevin misunderstands Benny, thinking he's trying to rip him off on his ticket just like everyone else. Benny is disappointed that Kevin thinks of him that way, even after they've been friends ever since 5th grade. He loses it as he gives Kevin back all the jewelry they bought earlier from the mall. Benny asks Kevin to take a look at where they're living and talks about how tough it is for them to eat, and says he's tired of running away from the cops, and Kevin currently has what it takes to change everything. After this, Benny angrily walks away, leading to them not speaking to each other for some time. Kevin goes to see Stacy in her house, and as usual, seeks her advice. Stacy honestly tells Kevin that she thinks he was wrong about the whole situation and advises him to apologize to Benny. While she prepares something for them to eat, Kevin asks her what she would do if she had won the lottery like him. Stacy replies that apart from finishing school and giving his family a better life, she would give back to the community, something to live for. Kevin thanks her for being real and for always being there for him. Stacy then asks about how his date with Nikki went. Kevin explains everything that happened that night between him and Nikki to her and swears he never touched her. However, Stacy finds it hard to believe because this is a girl Kevin has been chasing for a very long time. Kevin tells her that Nikki is not the type of girl he needs and reveals that Stacy is. On hearing this, Stacy becomes angry and asks Kevin to leave. Her anger is that they've been friends for a very long time, and Kevin has never once shown any interest in her. How come is he telling her this now that he's been betrayed by the girl he dreaded the most? Kevin quickly shuts Stacy up when he starts kissing her. They end up in the bedroom and are about to get dirty when Stacy's mom arrives home and calls on her. Stacy quickly pushes Kevin off and lets him through the window after she kisses him and bids him goodnight. Just when Kevin is about to leave, he gets knocked out by Lorenzo and his men. Lorenzo puts his hand in Kevin's pocket and collects his ticket and sneakers. Kevin wakes up to find himself in Mr. Washington's house the following morning. He tries to get up, but Mr. Washington tells him to relax, after which he gives him something to ease his pains. Kevin reaches into his pocket and comes to realize that his ticket is gone. He asks Mr. Washington, and he says he doesn't have it, and had only brought him inside when he overheard Lorenzo and his men laughing outside after knocking him out. However, Kevin doesn't believe him and accuses Mr. Washington of stealing his ticket. Disappointed, Mr. Washington reveals to Kevin that leaving his apartment to save him was the first time he ever stepped out in 22 years, and he did it for him. Kevin feels remorse on hearing about this, and Mr. Washington asks if he signed at the back of the ticket. Kevin says no, and Mr. Washington tells him that not signing at the back of the ticket makes it invalid, and even if he were to report to the police, they won't take him serious, as there's no proof that he's actually the owner. Kevin decides to go out and face Lorenzo man-to-man and get back his ticket. Mr. Washington bids him good luck and urges him to always make sure to protect himself at all time. Kevin finds Benny playing dice in the neighborhood and calls for his attention. Kevin apologizes for the way things turned out between them. Benny admits that he knows he might be a little bit off with his approach to life, but assures him his intentions for him are genuine. After settling, they head out to look for Lorenzo, with Kevin asking everyone about him and telling them to let Lorenzo know he's looking for him. Sweet Tea finds him just in time and tells him to get into his car, saying he has something to discuss with him. Kevin enters the car, and Sweet Tea apologizes for what happened at the church earlier and promises not to ever let Kevin out of his sight again. Kevin ironically asks him what he will do to someone who owes him money and can't pay him back. Sweet Tea replies that he will feed the person to his dogs. On hearing this, Kevin pretends he's about to throw up, and Sweet Tea pushes him out of his car. He tells Kevin to take care of himself and drives off. Stacy urges Kevin to return Sweet Tea's money, but Kevin replies that he's spent it all. Stacy then tells him that the same way he got himself into all of these is the same way he's going to get himself out. Same thing Mr. Washington told him. Kevin remembers that his problems all started when Samaj went and told everyone about his ticket. So, Kevin comes up with an idea. Together with Benny and Stacy, they make a scheme to fool Lorenzo into thinking that the ticket he took is fake. Kevin meets Samaj and tells him that the ticket Lorenzo stole from him was fake, and then prints a replica of it. As expected, Samaj does what he's best known for. He quickly relays the info to Lorenzo. Lorenzo finds Kevin at a barbecue party and demands that he hand him the original ticket. Sweet Tea arrives just in time and tells Lorenzo to stop harassing Kevin, calling him his business partner. When Lorenzo refuses to listen, Sweet Tea hits him hard and throws him over the barbecue stand. Thinking he's gotten the better of Lorenzo, Sweet Tea begins to brag until Lorenzo suddenly recovers and grabs Sweet Tea by his balls, crushing them. Afterwards, he then charges towards Kevin. He hits Kevin with a punch, and he falls to the ground. Lorenzo keeps hitting Kevin until he can't stand any longer before pulling a gun on him. He asks Kevin pick a number from 1 to 5 and give him the ticket, or he will shoot him. Kevin realizes he can't beat Lorenzo and hands him the ticket. Lorenzo decides to hold on to both tickets, the fake and the original, just in case Kevin tries to play smart again. He throws him the sneakers he stole from him. Just when he's about to leave, Mr. Washington appears from behind and gives Lorenzo an uppercut, knocking him out. The crowd cheers him, and Kevin can't believe his eyes. Mr. Washington finally gets the glory he never had and proves to everyone that he was never a serial killer or a mercenary. He's a good man who never wanted to have anything to do with the world again. He gets Kevin back his ticket and tells him to keep it safe, after which he returns to his apartment. Benny and Stacy give Kevin a pen and ask him to sign on the back of the ticket. The next day, Kevin cashes in the ticket and gets his $370 million. With the money, he pays back Sweet Tea, starts his own shoe company, and cleans up the neighborhood park and renames it Carson Park. He announces that Mr. Washington will be the head of park security and appoints Benny to be his CEO and Stacy his future attorney. Together, they start the Carson Foundation, which will help fund businesses, grant scholarships, and change people's lives forever. They then leave in Kevin's new helicopter to go tend to their business, with their friends waving at them. Now, let's take a look at the meaning of this movie and how it affects our daily lives. Lottery Ticket shows us how sudden wealth can make or break us if not handled with care. Money can bring both opportunities and challenges at the same time, and when it comes, we shouldn't let it ruin the relationship we have with our friends and loved ones. Chase your dreams with all diligence, take risk, and never stop to seize opportunities when they come your way. You never know which might just click for you. If you like what I do, please support me by subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Tell me what you think about this movie in the comment section.